Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be taking a look at a Protoss strategy. In this particular game, the Protoss player we're focusing on is Seed SG, and the opponent here is IAM's Yoda. So yes, this is a Protoss strategy versus Terran, specifically PvT, is what we are focusing on. So what we're actually going to be looking at is a 3-gate expand. Now, one notable difference in this particular game is that the Terran player goes for a small bunker contain. It's more of a delay tactic than it is a contain. The Terran player placing a bunker and some Marines outside of the main base is attempting to delay any sort of quick expansion from the Protoss player, and in such getting up an expansion himself. So we'll be looking at how to break that bunker contain and then working a 3-gate expand, countering with a strong 5-gate push. Now, with that said, if there were no bunker contain and you were to just go 3-gate expand, the only difference in this particular game is that Seed SG will amass up a few units before pushing out and expanding, whereas if you were to go 3-gate into expansion, then you would have just about 1 or 2 warp-ins, and then you would have dropped an expansion. And I'll take a look specifically at the time that a normal expansion would come down, as opposed to this additional warp-in that ends up taking place in this game. So let's talk about that build order. The opening build order, and I suppose right about now will be a good time to slow it down. The opening build order is 9 Pylon, 12 Gateway, 15 Assimilator, 17 Cybernetics Core, that is right when that gateway finishes, 18 is that second Assimilator, 22 the Warp Gate research starts. Alright, so at this point everything looks really standard. Now, continuing up into the what's looking to be a typical 3-gate into expand, at 25 supply is when those 2 additional gateways come. Now you can see starting things off with the Stalker, opening up with the Stalker in this matchup, very strong, really good at denying scouts and softening up Marines early game. But you can see Seed SG opened up with that Stalker, and then what happens is he realizes that there's a bunker with Marines outside of his base. Again, as mentioned, that was used primarily to slow up the Protoss player so that the Terran player could come out with that expansion. You can see right now actually able to walk by that no problem. Had there been Marauders with concussive shells in that bunker, the Stalker wouldn't be able to get out, but that's not the biggest thing that we're looking at here. So, yes, we're at normal speed right now, or faster, which is normal in-game time. So right about now, if you were just going 3-gate expand, very shortly, these gateways are about to finish, you would typically be seeing that Nexus at about this point in the game. But given the fact that there's a bunker with some units inside of it, really not possible to move out there and drop that Nexus right now. So we're going to have to see Seed SG is going to mass up a couple units. Primarily what you're looking to do, even if there were not a bunker outside of the base, when you go 3-gate expand, you typically go Sentry heavy. So you're going to see Seed SG sitting with at least 5 Sentries right now. Next warp-in will be a couple of Zealots and a Stalker. Now let's just talk about that for a moment. Again, we are dealing with this, and we're talking about how to deal with this minimal bunker contain, which is actually more of a bunker delay than it is an actual strong contain. But in dealing with this, yes, we'll look at that, but typically 3-gate expand, this is about what your opening would be regardless. Going 1 Stalker and 5 Sentry, that's pretty much standard, and then there would be an expansion coming down. You can see right now clearly the resources for that expansion to have been dropped, but because of this we have to warp in the units and then get the expansion. So it's just kind of the flip. So if you want to work with a 3-gate expand, do everything that's been done thus far in the game, same build order, same type of unit composition early game, except instead of this next warp-in that's about to take place, there would be an expansion going down. So when it comes to dealing with this bunker contain, we'll pick it back up. A Guardian Shield, all your Sentries, and a couple Zealots and a Stalker will be more than enough to adequately take this out. And realize, again, the Terran player isn't trying to keep us in our base permanently. This is just that delaying tactic. So here we go. We'll be seeing that warp in of a couple of Zealots. Now going down with those Sentries, the Guardian Shield, very important, cuts back on that damage drastically. Really no reason to lose any units here. As long as you pull back any low health units, you should be fine. Just a little bit of micro is more than enough to do the trick, and then now comes the Nexus. So again, as mentioned, this extra warp in, those 2 Zealots and the Stalker, wouldn't have come before the Nexus were there no bunker, but because there was, you just kind of reversed that, dealt with the bunker threat, and then continue to move on. Now, Nexus is down. Next thing that is going to happen is with your next 300 resources dropping these 2 additional gateways, you'll be sitting with 5 gateways, and you'll be going for a strong 5-gate push. With being Sentry heavy, this actually, there's very little risk in this. The reason I say that is because even if your Terran opponent had massed up some sort of a force, if you see what looks to be an expansion, which right here through scouting, you can see right now that he scouted out the bunker, that implies that an expansion's coming down, that even if he has a strong enough force to deal with what you push against, you make a small force field wall, you retreat, and you're all set. At the very least, you want to push out with your 5 warp gates once they are all in. Try to at least test the waters, and with some properly placed force fields, you can not only retreat, but you can actually cut the army in half and do quite a bit of damage. And that's actually going to be the second half of this video. We have got the 3-gate expand up. The 2 additional gateways are up right now, so now sitting on 5 gates, and now it comes time for that push. Again, testing the waters, seeing what you can do for damage, and you can see in this particular game, he managed to catch the Terran player as he was en route, and this is going to allow him, and watch this right here, some nice force field wall. So we'll be taking a look at this. Always want to, when engaging this Marine Marauder army, have a Guardian Shield active. The force field wall splitting the army in half. Anytime you can fight, a really big important part of this is picking the point of engagement. And the reason I mention that is because you can see right here, this is an impassable area right here. Let me pause. So any walls, any choke points, any area that has an impassable area, that is where you want to try to engage, because you want to use that plus a force field wall to stop units from retreating. One popular, obviously, tactic for a Terran player is to use the stim pack and concussive shells to keep zealots at bay, take out all the zealots, and then engage the rest of your army. So if you can use those force fields to cut them in half, just try to make sure it's going to be easiest to utilize those force fields anywhere there's an impassable area, such as this little mound here, whatever you want to call it, the tree wall, any sort of a rock wall, anything like that. Anywhere where you can kind of much more easily make it so that the Terran player cannot retreat. So we saw very effective use of force fields there, and actually I might as well just back that up and take one quick look at that again. Should just be 2 backs, and okay, so 1 more, sorry. All right, so we'll see right here, engaging specifically right around this point, made that nice wall off right there, going to continue up that, try to allow those zealots to catch up by just making these little force field walls, and again, look at how effective that is, because once those zealots are within range, they completely tear through those Marines and Marauders. So obviously that engagement went completely in the Protoss player's favor, and now he just will continue to engage, and this is just the end of the game. Oh, something else too, during this last part of the push here, you'll see an attempted mass repair on this bunker. Force field around the bunker. This prevents SCVs from being able to repair it and makes it very, very easy for you to take it down with your sentries and stalkers. So we should see, I believe, okay, no, he didn't even bother. But that's something that you should consider doing. It's certainly very strong. It stops SCVs from being able to repair if you just put a couple force fields right around that bunker. So pretty solid build. Again, we looked at something that was a little out of the ordinary. Typically, we would just like 3-gate expansion. Everything's nice. We've got a few sentries and a stalker early on, and then we continue to build up our army. But in this game, we had to see that after that the sentry army was in and that initial stalker that we had, seeing that bunker contain, had to warp in an additional wave of units, break that, and then drop the Nexus. So that's the only real discrepancy between what happened here and what would typically be just a normal 3-gate expansion. Alright, so let's talk about the opening build order. It was, of course, 9 Pylon, 12 Gateway, 15 Assimilator, 17 Cybernetics Core, 18 was the second Assimilator, 22 Cybernetics Core comes up, start that Warp Gate research right away, 25 Supply were these 2 additional gateways. Now, moving out, spotting that bunker, just kept pumping out those sentries, and then realizing can't just walk in and get that expansion at that point, warping in 1 more wave of units, those 2 Zealots and Stalkers. He broke that contain. Now, something else to note too, let's pretend that there was more than 1 bunker and maybe more units, some Marauders thrown in the mix as well. Obviously, you'd want more than 1 warp in. You just need to make sure that you've got enough to break it, you push out, and then you continue along your merry way. Then after the contain was broken, we saw the Nexus come down, 2 additional gateways. Then there was that push out, like I mentioned, always going to be a good idea. Once you have those 5 gates up and running, move out, test the waters. You are so sentry heavy at the beginning of this build that if you are outnumbered, outgunned, you can just drop a small little wall, retreat back home, and no harm done. You just lost a little bit of energy. Alright guys, so thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed this Protoss strategy video. As always guys, if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again guys, keep watching and keep owning.